She will never sit at this table.
Park Soo-yeon's voice sliced through the dining hall, her cold eyes fixed on Naomi. She'll never be family. The sooner she leaves, the sooner you can get back to your real life, Jin-woo. Naomi's heart shattered. 20 pairs of eyes watched from around the elegant table, waiting for her humiliation to be complete. Jin-woo stood so abruptly his chair crashed backwards. His face transformed into something deadly. This was Seoul's most feared mafia boss, and everyone at the table knew it. "You're right about one thing, Amma," he said, voice lethal and quiet. "Naomi doesn't belong at this table." Naomi felt tears spill over. He was choosing them. But Jin-woo walked straight to her, wiped her tears, and pulled her to stand. "Because she sits at the head of it." "What are you talking about?" his mother demanded. Jin-woo pulled out his phone. "Bring them in." 3 men in suits entered carrying boxes of documents. Jin-woo grabbed a thick folder and slammed it on the table. Glasses rattled. Silence fell. "This mansion you're sitting in right now, judging my wife?" His voice cut like a blade. "She owns it. Every stone. Every chandelier. Everything." Chaos erupted. Hey beautiful souls. Welcome back to the channel, and happy holidays to everyone watching. Today's story is an emotional roller coaster, love that defies everything, a mafia boss who protects his woman at all costs, family drama that will have your jaw on the floor, revenge, betrayal, and yes, those steamy intimate moments you live for. Click that subscribe button and turn on notifications as new stories drop daily. Now, let me take you back to where this all began. 2 years ago, Naomi was a corporate lawyer in New York, running on coffee and 3 hours of sleep. At midnight, she stumbled into a small Korean restaurant near her office. That's where she met him. Jin-woo sat in the corner, eating ramen alone, trying to escape his security team for 5 minutes of peace. When Naomi walked in, exhausted but beautiful, he couldn't stop staring. "Can I buy you dinner?" he finally asked. "No," she said, thinking he was just another guy trying to pick her up. But the restaurant owner, a sweet elderly woman, had other ideas. She literally pushed Jin-woo into Naomi's booth. "You both sad. Eat together. Talk. Be less sad." So they talked. 4 hours. About life, dreams, fears, disappointments. He didn't tell her who he really was, not about the mafia connections, the empire, the danger. He was just Jean. And she was just Naomi. They talked until the restaurant closed, then walked Manhattan until sunrise. "I thought I'd never see you again," Jin-woo admitted months later. "But I went back to that restaurant every night for 3 days, hoping. And I walked in on day 3, Naomi said. And there you were." They dated for a year before he told her the truth about who he really was. By then, she was already so deeply in love that the title, the money, the power, none of it mattered. "I was terrified you'd leave," Jin-woo confessed. But she didn't. Because she'd fallen for the man who brought her soup when she was sick, who learned to cook her favorite breakfast, who held her when she cried about losing her father. That man. Not the empire. 6 months ago, they got married in a quiet ceremony in New York. Just them and 2 witnesses. And that's when Jin-woo did something that would change everything. He transferred his entire inheritance, the estate, the properties, everything his grandfather left him, into Naomi's name. Not as a romantic gesture, but as proof. Proof that she wasn't with him for money. Proof that he trusted her completely. "If you have your own wealth," he told her, "then everyone will know you chose me for love." Naomi had protested, but Jin-woo was firm. His grandfather's will had actually required it, a test to see if Jin-woo would find someone worthy of sharing the family legacy with. And he had. But his family didn't know. Not yet. Not until tonight. I'm nervous, Naomi admitted as they drove to the estate for the dinner party. She smoothed down her elegant black dress, watching Seoul's city lights give way to the exclusive hills where Korea's elite lived. Jin Woo's hand never left hers. You don't bow to anyone tonight. You walk in there with your head high. Like the queen I am, she teased, though her heart hammered. Exactly like the queen you are. The mansion loomed ahead, a sprawling traditional Hanok estate modernized with every luxury. As they stepped out of the black Maybach, Naomi felt the stares immediately. Appa! A high-pitched voice called out. Min-ji, Jin Woo's cousin, rushed over in a red dress, completely ignoring Naomi. She linked her arm through Jin Woo's, forcing herself between them. Min-ji, that's inappropriate. Jin Woo stepped away, pulling Naomi back to his side. Min-ji's smile didn't reach her eyes. And you brought her. I brought my wife, Jin Woo corrected, his voice dropping dangerously. Show respect. Of course. Welcome, Naomi. Min-ji looked her up and down with obvious disdain. We're all very surprised by his choice. Wife, Naomi corrected firmly. Not choice. Wife. Right. How could I forget? Come, everyone's waiting. The dining hall was spectacular. Crystal chandeliers, a table for 30, china worth more than most cars. Jin Woo's family and associates were already seated. At the head sat his mother, Park Soo-yeon, elegant, sharp-eyed, and cold as ice. Next to her, his older brother Jin Ho and various cousins, uncles, and business partners. Jin Woo, his mother said, standing. You finally decided to honor us. He bowed respectfully. Amma. Thank you for the invitation. He gestured to Naomi. You remember Naomi, my wife. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. Yes. How could we forget? Naomi bowed politely despite the ice in the woman's tone. Mrs. Park, thank you for having us. Everyone, please be seated. Jin Woo, you'll sit here, to my right. Jin Woo pulled out the chair next to him for Naomi. Oh, I don't think there's room there, Min-ji interjected, sliding into the seat. Naomi can sit at the other end. Min-ji, move, Jin Woo said flatly. Jin Woo, his mother interrupted. Don't be rude to Min-ji. She's family. Your wife can sit elsewhere. The tension was suffocating. Naomi touched Jin Woo's arm. It's fine. I can sit. No. It's not fine. He turned to his mother. Naomi is my wife. She sits beside me. Always. Jin Woo, don't make a scene, Jin Ho said tiredly. Just sit down. For a moment, Jin Woo looked ready to explode. But Naomi squeezed his hand. Really, it's okay. Let's just have a peaceful dinner. His jaw clenched, but he nodded. Naomi walked to the far end of the table, her heels clicking on marble. Every eye followed her. Every whisper cut. She sat between an uncle who turned his back and a younger cousin who stared at her like she was an exhibit. So, the cousin said loudly, is it true what they say about black women? That you're all really aggressive? Naomi's eyes widened. Excuse me. Ji-sung, Jin Woo's voice cracked like a whip. Apologize. Now. I was just curious, Ji-sung said innocently. I've never met a black person before. Your curiosity is racism, Naomi said calmly, though her hands trembled. I'm not here to educate you. Such an attitude, an aunt murmured. No respect. She doesn't understand our culture, another added. Jin Woo stood abruptly, chair scraping. Enough. Sit down, his mother commanded. We're about to eat. The servers brought course after course. Conversation flowed around Naomi, but no one addressed her. She was invisible. A ghost. Except she wasn't. She felt every judgment, every contemptuous look. So Jin Woo, his mother said, Min-ji has been doing wonderful work with the company. Smart, loyal, understands our culture and values. That's good, Jin Woo said tightly, his eyes constantly drifting to Naomi at the other end. She'd make an excellent partner for you, Soo-yeon continued. In business, of course. And perhaps more, if you came to your senses. Naomi's fork paused halfway to her mouth. I have a wife, Amma, Jin Woo said dangerously. A mistake that can be corrected, his mother said dismissively. Divorce her. Pay her off. She clearly married you for money anyway. These foreign women, they see a rich Korean man and... Mrs. Park, Naomi's voice rang out clearly from the end of the table, surprising everyone including herself. I married your son because I love him. Money had nothing to do with it. The table fell silent. Oh, how noble, Min-ji said sarcastically. The fact that he's a billionaire was just a coincidence, I'm sure. I had my own career, my own money before I met Jin Woo, Naomi said, her voice steady. I was a successful corporate lawyer in New York. I gave up my partnership to move here for him. Because I loved him. Because I believed in what we could build together. A lawyer, one of the uncles scoffed. In America? That means nothing here. You gave up so much, Min-ji said mockingly. How sacrificial. And what exactly do you do now? Besides spend Jin Woo's money? Min-ji, Jin Woo warned. No, it's a fair question, Min-ji continued. What does she contribute, Appa? To the family? To the business? She doesn't understand our language. I'm learning Korean, Naomi interjected. She doesn't understand our culture, our traditions. She doesn't fit in. Look at her. Look around this table, Appa. She doesn't belong here. That's enough. Jin Woo's voice boomed through the hall. It's the truth and everyone here knows it, his brother Jin Ho added. You married her in some impulsive fit, probably because she was exotic and different. But this is your real life, Jin Woo. This family, this business, this world. She can't be part of it. Naomi felt tears prickling her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. You want to know what I think? Soo-yeon said, setting down her chopsticks with a definitive click. I think that black woman will never sit at our table. Not really. She can physically be here, but she'll never be one of us. She'll never be family. And the sooner she realizes that and leaves, the sooner you can get back to your real life, Jin Woo. The words hung in the air like poison. Jin Woo stood so abruptly his chair fell backwards. His face was a mask of cold fury that Naomi had only seen once before, when a rival gang had tried to ambush them. This was the face of a man who controlled an empire through fear and respect. You're right about one thing, Amma, he said, his voice deadly quiet. Everyone leaned forward to hear him. Naomi doesn't belong at this table. Naomi's heart shattered. She felt the tears she'd been holding back start to fall. Jin Woo walked down the length of the table toward her, every step purposeful. But instead of continuing past her toward the door, he held out his hand. Because she sits at the head of it. Confused murmurs rippled around the table. What are you talking about? His mother demanded. Jin Woo pulled Naomi to her feet, wiping her tears with his thumbs. I'm so sorry, he whispered to her. This ends now. He turned back to the table. Since you all seem confused about where my wife stands in this family, in this estate, let me clarify something. He pulled out his phone and made a call. Bring them in. Within moments, 3 men in suits entered the dining hall carrying boxes of documents. Jin Woo's personal lawyer, Mr. Kim, was among them. Mr. Kim, Jin Woo said. Please explain to my family the ownership structure of this estate. The lawyer cleared his throat, looking uncomfortable. As of 6 months ago, the Park estate, including this mansion and all surrounding properties, was transferred into the sole ownership of Mrs. Naomi Park. The reaction was explosive. What? His mother shrieked. That's impossible. Jin Ho shouted. Appa, what did you do? Minji gasped. Jin Woo pulled out a folder from one of the boxes and slammed it on the table. These are the property deeds. This mansion, the one you're all sitting in right now, judging my wife, telling her she doesn't belong. She owns it. Every stone, every chandelier, every piece of art on these walls. It's all hers. Jin Woo, you can't be serious, his mother said, her face pale. I'm completely serious, he said. 6 months ago, when Naomi and I got married, I transferred everything grandfather left me into her name. This estate, the vineyard in Jeju, the apartment building in Gangnam, the beach house in Busan. All of it. Because unlike you all, I trust her. I love her. And I wanted her to know that she's not with me for money. She has her own. He turned to Naomi, his expression softening. You own more property than anyone at this table, baby. You're not dependent on me. You never will be. You're with me because you choose to be, and that means everything. Naomi was crying fully now, but they were different tears. Jin Woo pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. So when you say, he continued, turning back to his shocked family, that black woman will never sit at our table? You're absolutely right. Because it's not your table. It's hers. This is her house. Her table. Her chandelier. And you know what that makes all of you? The silence was deafening. Her guests, he finished. Unwelcome ones, at that. You've lost your mind, his brother said, standing. You gave away grandfather's legacy to some woman you barely know for what? Good sex. Jin Woo moved so fast that his brother didn't see it coming. One moment they were feet apart, the next Jin Woo had him by the collar, lifting him slightly off the ground. The dangerous Mafia boss was fully present now. That's my wife you're talking about, Jin Woo said, his voice lethal. The woman I love. The woman I wake up next to every morning and thank God for. You will respect her, or you will leave. Permanently. Jin Woo, his mother pleaded. Put him down. He's your brother. He's disrespecting my wife in her own home, Jin Woo said. That makes him unwelcome. He released Jin Ho, who stumbled back. All of you, Jin Woo said, addressing the entire room. You've shown your true colors tonight. You've shown that your acceptance was always conditional. That your family love had limits. Well, mine doesn't. Naomi is my family. My priority. My everything. And if you can't accept that, there's the door. You're choosing her over your entire family, his mother asked, tears in her eyes now. You're making me choose, Jin Woo corrected. And yes, I choose her. Every time. Every day. Without hesitation. You guys, can I just pause here for a second? The emotion in this scene. The way Jin Woo stood up for his wife. If you're loving this story so far, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss any of our dramatic love stories. Drop a like on this video if you're Team Naomi and Jin Woo, and comment below what you would do in this situation. Would you stay and fight, or walk away. Let me know. Now, back to the story because things are about to get even more intense. This is insane, Minji said, standing. Jinwoo, you can't just. I can, he interrupted. And I did. Mr. Kim, please read the next document. The lawyer pulled out another paper. This is a letter from the late Mr. Park Dae-young, Jinwoo's grandfather, written before his death. He specified that the estate should go to Jinwoo with one condition, that it be transferred to his spouse upon marriage as a test of character and love. Grandfather wanted this? Soo-yeon whispered. He did, Jinwoo confirmed. He told me before he died that a man who truly loves doesn't hold power over his partner. He shares it. He trusted me to find someone worthy of sharing this legacy with, and I did. Naomi is more worthy than any of you. We're your blood, an aunt protested. And you've used that as an excuse to be cruel, Jinwoo shot back. Blood doesn't give you the right to abuse, to demean, to dehumanize. Naomi has been nothing but respectful to all of you, and you've treated her like dirt from day one. Because she's not one of us, his mother cried. She's different. She doesn't understand our ways. No, Jinwoo said more gently. She's different because she's kind. She's different because she sees people for who they are, not what they can do for her. She's different because she loved me before she knew about any of this wealth. When we met in New York, she didn't know who I was. She just knew Jinwoo, the man. Not the boss. Not the heir. Just me. He pulled Naomi closer. And that woman, that beautiful, intelligent, compassionate woman, fell in love with who I am at my core. Can any of you say you love me like that? Or do you just love what I represent? What I can give you? The question hung in the air, unanswered. Naomi finally found her voice. I never wanted this, she said quietly. I never wanted to come between Jinwoo and his family. I tried to tell him from the beginning that this would be hard, that people wouldn't accept us. But he insisted that love was enough. She looked at Jinwoo with such profound love that several people at the table looked away, uncomfortable with the intimacy of the moment. And you know what? Naomi continued. He was right. Love is enough. Not your approval. Not your acceptance. Just his love. That's all I need. But Jinwoo needs his family, Soo-yeon said desperately. The business, the connections, I have everything I need, Jinwoo interrupted. Naomi is my family. And we'll build our own legacy. Together. So that's it? Jinho asked bitterly. You're just cutting us all off. No, Jinwoo said. You're cutting yourselves off. I'm giving you a choice right now. Accept Naomi as my wife, treat her with the respect she deserves, or leave this house and don't come back until you can. You can't kick us out of the family estate, an uncle protested. It's not the family estate anymore, Jinwoo reminded him. It's Naomi's estate. And I'm fairly certain she doesn't want people who've been cruel to her living here. All eyes turned to Naomi. This was her moment. She could be petty, could throw them all out, could exact revenge for every snide comment, every dirty look, every moment they'd made her feel less than. But that wasn't who she was. I don't want to be the reason this family falls apart, Naomi said slowly. Despite how you've treated me, I know Jinwoo loves you. And because I love him, I want him to have his family in his life. She straightened her shoulders, channeling every ounce of strength she had. But I will not be disrespected in my own home. I will not be relegated to corners and treated as less than. If you stay for dinner, you will treat me as an equal. As Jinwoo's wife. As the owner of this house. If you can't do that, then yes, I'm asking you to leave. The audacity, Minji muttered. The audacity? Naomi repeated, something sharp entering her tone. You want to talk about audacity? You've spent the last hour insulting me, questioning my motives, my character, my worth. You've made racist comments about my skin color and my culture. You've tried to push another woman on my husband right in front of me. And I'm the audacious one for asking for basic respect. Minji, Jinwoo said coldly, you should probably leave. Now. Fine. Minji grabbed her purse. I don't want to stay in this house anyway. Not when it's been tainted by. Finish that sentence, Jinwoo warned, taking a step toward her, and I will make sure you never work in this country again. Your family's business depends on my goodwill. Test me. Minji's face went red, but she wisely kept her mouth shut. She stormed out, her heels clicking angrily on the marble. One by one, several other family members stood and left, their disapproval clear. But some stayed. Jinwoo's youngest cousin, a college student named Hannah, stood up and walked down to where Naomi and Jinwoo stood. I'm sorry, she said, bowing deeply to Naomi. I'm so sorry for how we treated you. It was wrong. You didn't deserve any of that. Naomi was surprised. Thank you, Hannah. Can I ask you something? Hannah said nervously. Of course. How did you and Appa meet? Everyone's been so focused on being angry about the marriage that no one ever asked about the love story. Naomi smiled, the first genuine smile since entering the house. She looked at Jinwoo. You want to tell it, or should I? You tell it, he said, wrapping an arm around her waist. You tell it better. They returned to the table, but this time, Jinwoo seated Naomi at the head, in his grandfather's old chair. He stood behind her, hands on her shoulders. It was 2 years ago, Naomi began. I was in New York, working on a huge case. I was exhausted, running on coffee and 3 hours of sleep. It was almost midnight, and I stopped at this little Korean restaurant near my office that was still open. I was in New York for business, Jinwoo continued. Sitting in that same restaurant, trying to get away from my associates for 5 minutes of peace. He was sitting in the corner, eating ramen and looking absolutely miserable, Naomi said with a laugh. You were beautiful, Jinwoo said softly. Even exhausted and stressed. You walked in like you owned the place. I couldn't stop staring. He was staring so hard that I thought something was wrong with me, Naomi said. I checked to make sure I didn't have food on my face. I finally worked up the courage to talk to her, Jinwoo said. Asked if I could buy her dinner. And I said no, Naomi said. Because I thought he was just some guy trying to pick me up. But then the restaurant owner, this sweet elderly woman, decided to play matchmaker, Jinwoo said. She literally pushed him into my booth, Naomi laughed. Just shoved him right in across from me and said, you both sad. Eat together. Talk. Be less sad. Even Soo-yeon cracked a small smile at that. So we talked, Naomi continued. 4 hours. About everything. Life, dreams, disappointments, fears. He didn't tell me who he really was, what he did. He was just Jean. And I was just Naomi. She told me about her case, Jinwoo said. This pro bono work she was doing for a family being evicted. How she was fighting this huge corporation on her own time. And he told me about feeling trapped by expectations, Naomi said. About wanting to be good but being born into something complicated. We talked until the restaurant closed, Jinwoo said. And then we walked around Manhattan until sunrise. We didn't kiss that night, Naomi said. Didn't even exchange numbers. I thought I'd lost her, Jinwoo admitted. Thought it was just one perfect night I'd remember forever. But then, 3 days later, I walked into that same restaurant, Naomi said. And there he was. I'd been going back every night, Jin-woo said. Hoping she'd come back. We dated for a year before he told me who he really was, Naomi said. And by then, I was already so in love with the man that the title, the money, the power, none of it mattered. I was terrified she'd leave when she found out, Jin-woo admitted. But she didn't. I didn't care about the Mafia connections or the danger, Naomi said. I cared about the man who brought me soup when I was sick. Who learned to make my favorite American breakfast even though he'd never cooked before. Who held me when I cried about losing my dad and didn't try to fix it, just let me grieve. She reached up and squeezed Jin-woo's hand on her shoulder. That's who I married, she said, looking around the table at the remaining family members. Not a bank account. Not a name. A man who sees me, who values me, who loves me exactly as I am. There was a long silence. Finally, Soo-yeon spoke. I lost my husband 10 years ago, she said quietly. Park Dae-young's son. Jin-woo's father. We had an arranged marriage. I grew to care for him, but it was never what you two have. She looked at Naomi directly for the first time all evening. I've been so focused on tradition, on bloodlines, on what I thought was protecting this family, that I forgot what my father-in-law always said. That love is the foundation of everything. Without it, all the money and power in the world means nothing. Jin-woo said softly. I'm not saying I'm suddenly comfortable with all of this, Soo-yeon continued. Change is hard for me. But I can see how you look at her, Jin-woo. Like she's your whole world. And that's how your grandfather looked at your grandmother. That's real love. She stood and walked slowly to where Naomi sat. Naomi's heart pounded as the elegant older woman approached. Soo-yeon extended her hand. May I try again? I'm Park Soo-yeon. Your mother-in-law. And I would like very much to get to know my son's wife. Naomi took her hand, tears streaming down her face now. I'd like that too. Good, Soo-yeon said. Because my son is right. If this is your house now, then you shouldn't be sitting at the far end of the table. You should be here, at the head, where you belong. Jin-woo pulled out the chair next to Naomi for his mother, and slowly, the family members who had remained began to move closer, rearranging themselves around the head of the table. Not everyone came back. Some had left and wouldn't return for months, maybe years. Some might never come back. But the ones who stayed, who chose love over prejudice, began to ask Naomi questions. Real questions. About her life, her work, her interests. Hannah asked about being a lawyer in America. An aunt asked about her family. Jin-ho, who had stayed despite his earlier outburst, awkwardly apologized and asked how she was finding Seoul. The dinner that had started with such hatred slowly transformed into something warmer. Not perfect, not without awkward moments, but real. Hours later, after the last guest had left and the staff had cleaned up, Jin-woo and Naomi stood on the balcony overlooking the estate grounds. The Seoul city lights twinkled in the distance. I'm sorry you had to go through that, Jin-woo said, holding her from behind, his chin resting on her head. I'm not, Naomi said. It needed to happen. We couldn't keep avoiding your family forever. Still, some of the things they said were horrible, Naomi finished. But you stood up for me. You didn't let them make me feel small. And that's what matters. He turned her around to face him. When I transferred the properties to your name, it wasn't just about proving you weren't with me for money. No. No, he said. It was about showing you that I trust you completely. That I'm all in. That there's no part of my life that isn't also yours. Jin-woo, that estate is your family legacy. And now you're my family, he said simply. You're my legacy. Whatever we build together, whatever children we might have, that's what matters. Not buildings or land. Children? Naomi said, raising an eyebrow. We've never talked about. I know, he interrupted. And we don't have to decide anything now. But Naomi, when I think about the future, you're in every vision. Every dream. Every plan. He cupped her face in his hands. You're it for me. The only woman I'll ever love like this. And tonight, watching you handle my family with such grace and strength, I fell in love with you all over again. Even when I was crying, she teased. Especially then, he said. Because you let me see you vulnerable. You trust me with your pain. That's intimacy deeper than anything physical. Speaking of physical, Naomi said, a mischievous glint in her eye, we have this whole mansion to ourselves tonight. Jean Wu grinned, that dangerous, sexy smile that made her knees weak. Mrs. Park, are you suggesting something inappropriate? I'm suggesting, she said, walking backwards toward the bedroom, pulling him by his tie, that we christen every room in this house. Starting with the master bedroom. Best idea you've had all night, he growled, lifting her up. She wrapped her legs around his waist as he carried her inside, kicking the door closed behind them. He laid her gently on the bed, hovering over her. I love you, he whispered. Sarangi. With everything I am. I love you too, she whispered back. Show me. And he did, worshipping every inch of her, taking his time, making sure she felt cherished and adored. Their lovemaking was slow and intense, a reaffirmation of everything they declared to his family. A claiming and a surrender all at once. Later, wrapped in each other's arms, sweaty and satisfied, Naomi traced patterns on his chest. Thank you, she said softly. For what? For fighting for us. For not making me feel like I have to compete with your family for your love. You never have to compete, he said firmly. You've already won. You won my heart the moment you laughed at my terrible joke in that New York restaurant. It was a terrible joke, she agreed with a laugh. But you laughed anyway. Because you were so earnestly trying to make me smile, she said. How could I not fall for that? They lay in comfortable silence for a while, just breathing together. What happens now? Naomi asked. With your family? Now, we live our lives, Jean Wu said. Some of them will come around fully. Some might not. But we're not responsible for their choices. We're only responsible for our own. And what choice are you making? To love you, he said simply. Every day, in every way. To build a life with you that's full of joy and passion and meaning. To show you, every single day, that you're the best decision I ever made. Pretty sure I'm the one who got lucky, Naomi said. No, Jean Wu said, kissing her forehead. We both did. We found each other in a city of millions, against all odds. That's not luck. That's destiny. 3 months later, Naomi stood in the same dining hall, but everything was different. She was hosting a charity gala for the Legal Aid Foundation she'd started to help international families navigating Korean immigration law. The hall was filled with people from all walks of life, Korean dignitaries, international ambassadors, expatriates, and yes, some of Jean Wu's family. Soo-yeon had become one of the foundation's biggest supporters, using her social connections to bring in donations and awareness. Hannah volunteered as a translator. Even Jin-ho had contributed a substantial amount and brought his business partners. Min-ji and several others who'd walked out still hadn't reconciled with them, but Naomi had made peace with that. You couldn't force people to grow. You look stunning, Jin-woo whispered, coming up behind her in the crowd. She wore a gorgeous gold gown that shimmered when she moved. You clean up pretty well yourself, she said, admiring him in his tuxedo. Dance with me. The hostess shouldn't abandon her guests, Naomi protested. 5 minutes, Jean Woo insisted, pulling her to the dance floor. As they swayed to the music, Naomi looked around the room. Can you believe this? 6 months ago, your family didn't want me in this house. Now I'm hosting a fundraiser here. I can believe it, Jean Woo said. Because you're extraordinary. You turned pain into purpose. You could have walked away from Korea, from my family, from all of this. But instead, you chose to bloom where you were planted. Bloom where I was planted, Naomi repeated. I like that. My grandfather used to say it, Jean Woo said. He was a gardener at heart. Said the most beautiful flowers were the ones that grew in difficult soil. Am I a flower in this metaphor? You're a whole garden, Jean Woo said. Beautiful, thriving, bringing life to everything around you. You're so poetic tonight, Naomi teased. What's gotten into you? Jean Woo stopped dancing. Right there, in the middle of the dance floor, in front of hundreds of people, he got down on one knee. Jean Woo, we're already married, Naomi said, confused. I know, he said, pulling out a ring box. But our first wedding was rushed, in New York, with just us and 2 witnesses. You deserved more. You deserved romance and family and celebration. He opened the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring surrounded by smaller stones. Naomi Park, will you marry me again? Will you let me give you the wedding you deserved? The celebration where all our loved ones can witness how much I adore you. Naomi was crying again, but these were happy tears. Yes, she said. 1,000 times yes. The room erupted in applause as Jean Woo slipped the ring on her finger and stood to kiss her. Cameras flashed, people cheered, and for a moment, Naomi felt like the luckiest woman in the world. Not because of the ring, or the mansion, or the money. But because of the man who loved her enough to fight the world for her. If you're still watching, I just want to say thank you so much for sticking with this story. What an emotional journey, right? Naomi and Jean Woo showed us that real love isn't about perfection, it's about choosing each other every single day, even when it's hard. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment telling me your favorite part. Did you love the confrontation scene? The romantic moments? Jean Woo's grand gesture at the end? Let me know. And share this video with someone who loves a good romance story. Trust me, they'll thank you for it.